Hi, me again. I wanted to do another StarCraft one real quick. I've been doing some research on some stuff, and I've come up with some things that I'm pretty confident in letting everybody know. First, an update. I was kind of proud because I'm a member of a 3v3 player versus player team. I've gotten into some player versus player stuff. Still trying not to take 1v1 very seriously and sandbagging every now and then. Um, but basically, we three people, myself, xFreedSoulx, and ViperGTS got together and started playing in three-player versus three-player mode. And two of the three of us are born to rush. I mean, there's no way around that. I really like early aggression, and I think it's probably your best investment in multiplayer mode. And we actually intentionally went bronze. We during our placement matches when we were playing the five that determine which tier you're on, we intentionally lost two of the three. I'm sorry, we won three, lost two on purpose, and we decided that we were going to be bronze. And we made it to the top of the bronze list recently. We were literally ranked number one with a huge point difference. And tonight we actually transcended and went up to silver. So I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about that. I'm very proud of it. Not really what I wanted to do, but it's quite an accomplishment. But I wanted to give everybody a tip, especially the rushers out there, in a player versus player environment. I'm asked a lot, well, how do you make sure that you don't get hit back really, really hard? Well, there's an indicator of that. When you're in someone's base, for instance, what we generally tend to do is hit one base together. At least two of us, sometimes three of us. What we'll look for is we're looking for whether or not everyone else comes over to help. And it seems second nature that someone would come over and assist their teammate out. That's not always the best course of action, and I'll explain why. If you react to that, you're basically playing into a sucker play, and that's what we bank on. Is people running over and saying, "Oh, I got to help my buddy out, or this is going to be 3-on-2." If someone doesn't come over to help, they're building up forces, they're teching up, they're doing something that's going to have a decided impact on the game. So when you're rushing, what you're looking for is how many colors of opponents show up. If all three show up, they're dead in the water. You've got them. They're trying to go toe to toe with you, and this is what you were prepared for. If one of them doesn't come over, then you're pretty much looking at one point of resistance. And if no one comes over to help your friend, you've got two people teching up, getting ready to hit you back. And that's something that you've got to brace for. Um, at that point, it's not too late to start preparing. What you have to do is you have to start behaving as if they're going to rush you. That gives you time. Whatever forces that you've sent out to rush, make sure they try to accomplish what they've gone there to do. But in the lower levels, it's pretty much a given that once someone starts quitting, they'll just continue to fall down like dominoes. If you don't get a lot of interaction between the three people that you're playing, or two people that you're playing for that matter, one person is battening down his hatches and is trying to tech up to something that will probably mess you up. And if they get a tech advantage, your number advantage may or may not serve you well. It's an idea of the indicator being how many people come over to help their friends. Because if it turns into an early pissing contest, you'll probably win because you're the one who prepared with more urine. The big thing to watch out for, though, is the tech up. If you've got zealots and zerglings and marines out there, you're pretty much golden unless they go up to something that is more effective, like banshees or dark templars or stalkers. It's the idea of watch what's happening when you're rushing. I know it's really easy to get caught up in the moment, but the one thing that's going to stop you is if they get the technology advantage on you. Another thing is if they go out completely, and this actually came into play tonight with a really hard-won victory that we actually transcended on to silver. Watch what they're doing. If they're going for ground forces that can shoot at air, fine, go to somewhere they can't go. If there's an isolated area on the base and someone's playing Terran, go ahead and send one building up into the corner where they can't get to. At that point, you can't lose, at least not until they go to the air. Um, the idea is when that happens, it turns into a war of attrition. And another thing is once it's over, it's not really over. For instance, if my base gets wiped out and I no longer have forces, um, and my ally still has a lot of forces at that point, I can help micromanage at that point. If one of my allies or both of my allies goes into the option box and gives me control of their forces, I can actually act as another set of eyes. I can, if I'm playing Zerg, I can use my overlords for to recon the area, see what's going on, try to give as much feedback as I can. If he decides to do a multiple point hit, I can do everything short of building buildings and setting production. I can use any troop that he has for distraction or destruction purposes. And that's something that a lot of people forget. Once you're dead, you're the ghost of allies past. You can still teach Scrooge a lesson. And that's actually what we did. And at that point, you have to view it as a war of attrition. Um, if you are able to keep your head about it and watch what's going on and look for the indicators, then it's something where you can probably succeed in a situation where most people would think it's beyond success. The number of forces doesn't matter as much as the tactics that you're using and the technology that you get to. It's really something that's important, and even if you're completely out of the game and just using some minuscule troop to try to get information for the person who's still there, that's a valuable resource. Um, in terms of that, I do recommend one mentality, which is if you have two other partners and your base is getting hit and you're being overrun, don't let them save you. And I'm saying that unless you have something really big cooking or a really big plan, don't let them come over to save you. And the reason behind that is you would rather see your allies get up to something really big and significant in that time period. Don't be afraid of being cheesy. A lot of people will complain when Terrans start flying, when there's ground-only troops. That's part of the game. That's why Terrans can do that. A lot of people will be upset when Protoss decides to start laying down cannons like they're free. That's part of the game. That's why they can do that. The one type of race that is the least defensible is, or the hardest to defend, is Zerg, and that's because they're the most aggressive. So, that being said, it's really important for you to watch what's going on while you're rushing. Come up with a good plan. Try to execute it as well as you can, and in effect, you have to have at least one person looking at that mini map like it's really important information. Watch to see what colors are swirling around. If no one comes over to help this guy, then it means that the other two are building up to hit you harder, and you need to be prepared for that. If someone overruns one of your bases, make the other two inaccessible, or at least hard to get to. That's what you have to do. It's just like warfare. It doesn't matter who dies first, it matters who dies last. That being said, if your base is getting overrun, always try to get at least one drone out so that you can, if nothing else, just build little bases here and there to try to keep them busy while your friends are doing whatever. It doesn't necessarily have to be a nexus or a hatchery or a comm center, although it's better if it is. It can simply be a little building over here, a little building over there. Even without a command center, they'll be able to see it, but they still have to go to it and destroy it before the end of the game. And that's something that you really want to do. If you succeed, like we did tonight, in destroying someone's economy, making it so they can't build any more troops, they're pretty much stuck with what they have. And if you get out of the reach of what they have, if they have all ground burdened troops, and you're able to make it into the air or into an isolated area that you need to be in the air to get to, you've won. There's no way that he can hit you anymore. And that's something that is a really important tactic to remember. In terms of if a rush fails, always have a contingency plan. My personal problem with that is my contingency plans are usually really hard to execute, really time consuming, and I rarely make it out to them because I keep changing my mind. It's a personal thing on my point. But you have to have a plan and you have to have communication. StarCraft 2 incorporates voice over IP for a reason. If you've got music playing and you don't have your mic turned on and you're playing with people that you know, you're deciding that that music is more important than the victory. And the most important thing to remember is statistically, if you win half the time, you're good. If you win more than half the time, you're very good. That's the thing to remember. People assume that when you rush that you don't know how to play. The issue with that is you do know how to play. You're just going to make them force you to do it. But once again, I'd like to congratulate xFreedSoulx and ViperGTS, and although it's glad handing myself, PaganArtist, on StarCraft 2 for making it to silver unintentionally after a very hard fought match. And I would like to encourage everybody to keep on gaming. I would recommend that if you want the other side to this to see how to defend against a rush situation, StarCraft 4 Strategy Gaming, which is in my channel, actually has some notes on how to defend in 4 versus 4 tactics. It's a very important video to watch because basically if someone applies that, they would be able to stop our rush cold in most cases. And that's something that's important to remember. The idea is you can have a really fast game that really is definitive, but I would really rather have an exciting one where there's a lot of action going on and where I actually break a sweat during it. So that's pretty much where that is. So thanks very much for watching, and if you want to see any of our replays, you can go to my friends list, look up ViperGTS, and he's actually been doing some castings of some of our actual games. So that might be interesting for some of you who might be interested. So have a great day and try to be good to each other.